So for those watching online, a very warm welcome, who will be watching later today, and greetings. Welcome to Unity of Tempe. I'm Reverend Mitzi. Peace be with you. I hope that you will come and join us very, very soon. So today we are on the second part of our series, Unwrapping Christmas, and we're using Unity Minister Hypatia Hasbrook's book, The Trip to Bethlehem, as our backdrop. And today we're going to explore what gets in the way of peace and ways to stay peaceful, not only during the season of Advent, but throughout the year. And today is also the second Sunday of Advent. And so we're going to be lighting two Advent calendars. The first is for hope and faith, which we talked about last week. And the second is for peace. Let me just kind of straighten this one out. Oh, there. I think if it turns over a little bit, it's kind of because peace is a little wonky right now, right? Yeah, so we're going to light those both. Yes. And I hope you've been having a chance to read your Advent booklet. If you haven't got one yet, your Unity Advent booklet, pick one up afterwards. They're great. They're wonderful messages in there for Advent. And today's was so brilliant that I'm going to read it in its entirety. So you can either follow along, but it would be even better if you just follow along with me. And every time the word peace comes up, I am going to do that, and we're going to say together, peace. Okay, let's practice. Peace. All right, got it. So Reverend Teresa Burton wrote this one, and she said, every year around this time, the call rings out for like so many before it, perhaps the year has been filled with life's more unpleasant flavors. The bitterness of resentment and unforgiveness, the sourness of envy or pettiness, and the saltiness of anger or impatience. It's only natural to hunger for the sweetness of peace and harmony at Christmas. We want peace to fill our hearts and minds. We want peace to permeate the world. Each year we say the words, we sing the songs, we recite the prayers. Then when Christmas comes, we glimpse the promise, peace on earth, goodwill to all, and hope the coming year will be better than the one we're about to leave behind. If we truly want to live in peace, why does it elude us? Maybe it's because we look for it everywhere except within ourselves. Maybe we tell ourselves, if only a certain person would be less annoying, if only a certain situation would resolve the way we think it should, we could finally be at peace. Sometimes we are our own worst enemies, demanding perfection, ruminating over past mistakes, and feeling anxious about the future. But consider this. Almost everyone everywhere is probably thinking something similar. Together, we're contributing our troubled energy to a world on edge, jagged, brittle, and longing for peace. Peace. Just like every other aspect of spiritual living is an inside job, it's also a crucial aspect of the Advent journey. To bring the Christ into the world, we must first shut out the noise and distraction that pulls our attention away from our heart's wisdom, the inner voice that reminds us we are divine beings. As we listen to the wisdom of the heart, we lift ourselves out of the clamor of the conflict, the agitated energy of pushing against what life is showing us. A peaceful heart leads to acceptance of what is, exactly as it is, and perhaps counterintuitively allows us to find the peace we've been seeking. with commitment and practice, we will be the peaceful presence we have been praying for, no matter the situation. Each year we celebrate Jesus' birth, the new life brought into the world under the humblest conditions. We can learn so much from the Christmas story. We need not wait for the world to present us with ideal circumstances. When we live from the knowledge that we are spiritual beings, we see ourselves as both human and divine. Peace is ours, and nothing and no one can take it away. Let's do that again. As peace dawns in every heart and mind, the world will be transformed and the Christ will be born anew. I know that was a long reading, but I just loved it. And look at it again and again in your Advent booklet, because it really is a great reading. Let's say, we lit our Advent calendars. Let us say and affirm, I sweetened the world by sharing my peace. I sweetened the world by sharing my peace. And, as Sandra would say, I sweetened the world by sharing my peace. Yes, indeed. So peace, it is something we all want, right? Anyone not want peace? We all want it. And we want it in our hearts, we want it in our minds, we want it in our families, we want it in our communities, and we want to see it in the world, right? We do. Yet when it comes to having peace, like the reading said, have you ever felt like you're your own worst enemy at times? Anyone? Yes, absolutely. Have you ever struggled with your ego? The part of your mind that creates a false sense of who you are. Have you ever wondered how to overcome the ego and find the peace that you crave? Yes, I think we all have at times. Because if you have, you're not alone. We all have an ego. And we all face the challenge of dealing with it. And the ego, well, it's formed by experiences in the physical world. And it makes us believe something contrary to what we believe in unity. It makes us believe that we are separate from God and separate from each other. The ego also chooses which parts of ourselves we show to the world, hello world, here I am, and which parts of the world, hello world, here I am today, we hide or deny, which parts we don't want anyone to see. So in the Christmas story, one character metaphysically represents the struggle of the ego. Anyone have an idea of who he is? Oh, I'm so glad. Well, this character is Herod, the Roman appointed king of Judea. And now, while he was a historical person, he is also an archetypical type. And if you're wondering, what are you talking about? Last week, we really explained that. So watch last week's message online about delving into this metaphysical story of Christmas from the metaphysical perspective. But Herod is a symbol of the ego, the false sense that is based on fear and greed and power. And because he had a very, very long reign, or a long reign, I should say, he represents a firmly established ego. He represents the part of our consciousness that resists and opposes the birth of the Christ within us. Feeling threatened, what does Herod do? He tries to destroy it by any means possible. Now, ideally, our egos, or the small self, serves the higher spiritual self, and it's guided by the Christ within, right? Yes. However, until this happens, the ego revolves primarily around itself, and its primary concern is self-protection. And such an ego is called egocentric. But here's the thing. All of us, to a certain point, are egocentric. Because we all want to, protect ourselves to some extent. But Herod is a little different. Because he symbolizes the egocentric ego in tyrant mode. He was a very intelligent man, apparently. but he had no scruples and no morals. And he was technically a Jew, but he did not practice or believe in Judaism. In fact, he had only one God at all, only one thing, and that was himself. He thought he was it. There was no higher or lower self within him. He just thought it was all about him. He had 10 wives. He got Henry VIII beat, didn't he? And 14 children, and he lived luxuriously, but he knew no happiness. To impress the world, he beautified Jerusalem and other cities and built extravagant buildings. And to expand his power and protect himself, he acted ruthlessly. When he discovered conspiracies against him, he had the conspirators and their families tortured and killed. He even killed one of his wives. He executed her and 3 of his sons and a mother-in-law. I mean, wow. You know, talk about ego run rampant, right? And so while he is a very extreme example, the ego within ourselves can find many tricks to deceive us and keep us under its control. Here are some of the common ones that I'm going to share today, and see if you recognize any of them within yourself. You don't have to raise your hand. You can if you want. You can nod. You can wink. Whatever. The first one is imposter syndrome. So the ego makes us feel like a fraud and that we're not good enough or worthy enough. I think we can all identify with this one at times, right? It bases our self-worth on external factors, such as skills, wealth, and possessions, and a whole myriad of other things. I can fall into this one at times. You'd be like, nobody showed up today. It's all about me. Well, that's my ego run rampant, because it's not about me. I do the work, I pray, and show up. And that's what it's about, right? So you can identify with that, some of them. Now, next one, obsessing about the future. Anyone worry about the future ever? Your retirement, your not retirement, whatever it is, your savings, is your money going to last, your health, whatever it is. The ego makes us worry about the future. Or fantasize about the life we think we need. It resists the present moment. We're everywhere, but not here. And makes us unhappy with what we have. We think, I've got to have more. More of whatever it is, right? More stuff or more education or more whatever it is. Okay, next one. Fear of change. Oh, yes. The ego makes us afraid of change and of losing what we have. It prefers the familiar and the comfortable and avoids the unknown and makes us cling to the past and our old habits and patterns. Ooh, sense of spiritual superiority. The ego makes us feel superior to others and that we are more enlightened than they are. So either internally or externally, talking to other people, we can judge them and criticize them. What's in their consciousness? Why are they behaving that way? How can they be like that? And maybe not any of us here, but we've all perhaps been on the receiving end of that at times. Perhaps we've even done it silently, yes? Okay, comparison. The ego makes us compare ourselves to others. And we either are better or worse, right? We're never just like we're all one. We're like better or worse as a way of measuring our self-worth and of validating ourselves. And it can make us envious or resentful of others' achievements or possessions. So having this Herod-like ego makes us selfish and arrogant, unable to love and respect others. Now, whole countries can have this Herod-like consciousness, a collective Herod consciousness, a collective Herod ego, and we can see this being played out on the world stage right now, right? As it has done for millennia. A Herod ego results in hostility and conflict and violence and anything other than peace. A Herod ego makes us isolated and lonely, unable to connect and cooperate with others. Again, we can see that on the world stage right now, and we can, see it everywhere. The ego of a spiritually conscious person, however, the ego of a spiritually conscious person is not egocentric because the ego revolves around the higher self. Spiritually conscious people are concerned with their growing understanding of God, their inner relationship to spirit, and its expression in their daily lives. So to overcome this Herod ego, we embrace the Christ presence. We welcome it like an Advent, like welcome, hello, come be born in me again, fresh. And we allow it to be birthed in our hearts and minds. So I hear you saying, okay, great, this is wonderful, Reverend Mitzi. I'm learning a lot today. But what are some of the ways that perhaps I can free myself from the clutches of the ego? Because if we think about it, in a sense, the ego could almost stand, this egocentric ego, this Herod type of ego, can almost stand for the Antichrist, the anti-birthing of the Christ within us. So let's look at some ways that we can free ourselves from the stranglehold of ego. First one, mindfulness and awareness. Oh yes, our old friends. Becoming more mindful and self-aware. Observing our thoughts and our emotions without judgment. Well, isn't that fascinating? I was feeling like that. Or being willing to share it and saying, I'm just going to be honest. I was feeling that way, but I'm not going to hang out and build a camp there. But I was feeling that way. Not denying it, but just saying, I'm not, staking a claim on it. Learn that they're just coming to pass through. They're not our true self. They're just temporary states of the ego working itself out. Meditation and reflection. That helps to quiet our mind and the influence of the ego. That horrible chatter that goes on. Sometimes on Sunday night, I'm going to be honest, when trying to go to bed, I'm like replaying what's gone on. And after talks, ministers do that. And it's like, be still, stop it, let it go. It's all okay. Affirmations and positive thinking. Yeah, we do that here, right? We do a lot of that. Focusing on positive, affirming thoughts, we can reduce all that negativity. And when you say your affirmations and you're wondering, where can I find affirmations in your Unity booklet? A lot of them say on this day of Advent, but just take off on this day of Advent. And when you say them as Sandra would say, with gusto. Imagine you have your own personal Sandra in your head. Say it with gusto, MGM. Say it with gusto right now. Say it with gusto, right? Practicing gratitude. Yeah, I know, Thanksgiving's come and gone. But it's like, oh my goodness, like I was sharing earlier, I'm grateful for power because ours went off today at home. So being grateful, it shifts us from what we're lacking to the abundance that's already present. And it can diminish that need for more, all of that we want. Forgiveness and letting go. Oh my goodness. Holding on to grudges or the past hurts, that is an activity of the ego. Because it wants to keep us down. You got to stay angry and resentful. And I'm going to block all the divine spirit and light coming through you because you're just going to focus on that hurt. Service and compassion. That was what happened this morning. Service and compassion. You who aren't here don't know, and you're not going to know. Because what happens before service stays here before service. So come, and then you would know what happens. All of the wonderful things. That's right. You want to be a part of this community? Come be a part of our community in person. But this takes away the focus of ourselves. When we joined in compassion this morning, none of us were thinking about ourselves at that moment. We were all sending our love to someone else at that moment. This fosters a sense of unity and interconnectedness with each other. Continuous learning and openness. The ego loves to cling to rigid beliefs. I thought that once, so I must think it again. Whether they're true or not, it fears new ideas and continuous learning. So cultivating an open and flexible mindset reduces the influence of the ego. So these were 7 practices that can shift us from egocentric living to living a more spiritually aligned way of life. And they help reduce the ego working in our life in a negative way. So ideally, Christmas with its nativity theme and represents the birth of the Christ consciousness and the release of the dominating ego, so that all humankind feels a deep sense of oneness and interconnectedness. Christmas is an open acknowledgement that we're thinking of others beside ourselves, because we give gifts, we give the gift of our time, we give the gift of our presence, and we give the gift of being kind to one another. It's the spirit of the season coming alive in us and what we desire to see reflected in the world. Peace. That's the reason we come here each week, to keep that spirit alive in us all year long. So to acknowledge the Prince of Peace in all of us, here's a song that I've played a couple of times before, and I know that you know the words very, very, very well to this song. So I invite you to just listen and accept this.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. There is darkness, only light, and where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood is to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving to all men that we receive, in dying that we're born to eternal life. Make me a channel of your peace. Make me a channel of your peace.
Divine Spirit, let us say together collectively, make me a channel of your peace. Make me a channel of your peace. Guide us in the ways that we may be a blessing. Guide us and open our hearts during this season of Advent, that the Christ consciousness, the Christ light may be born anew, afresh in us during this season as we prepare Make me a channel of your peace. Guide us in the ways that if our ego shows up, that we might just be aware of it and mindful and release and let go. That we might be guided to be light, to be love, to be kindness, to be compassion. Thank you, Divine Spirit, that this prayer is heard and it is answered. And so it is. Amen. Let us say together, I am a beloved child of God, here to be an ambassador of good. And so I just want to remind you that your year-end giving makes a difference. It is tax deductible, so it is really a wonderful way. If you've got some extra money lying around that you're like, I got to get some tax write-offs here. This is wonderful, so a wonderful way through the end of the year. So I invite you to take your tithe or your offering, your financial blessing, and put it in your left hand. Yes, if you're doing it on phone, or online, that's fine too. But just see that blessing in your hand now. Put your right hand over it. Feel that hand of abundance, that hand of God. And say, I give my tithes and offerings to God, and I reap a millionfold. Let's say that together. I give my tithes and offerings to God, and I reap a millionfold. One more time. I give my tithes and offerings to God, and I reap a millionfold. And also our affirmation here, I am a joyful sharer of my good. I remember that as I give, I receive, and that God is my source. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Laurie, for collecting today. We'll invite you to do that. That's wonderful. And MGM, you could help too. That would be brilliant. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And Ken, come on up if you would as well. Our birthday boy. You can sit there if you prefer, whichever is easiest. Yeah. Okay. We're so grateful, Divine Spirit, for all these gifts and blessings and for all giving online as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. We bless the giver and the receiver and the stewardship of their use. Every prayer that has ever been in the prayer box or will ever be in the prayer box. Thank you, thank you. And so it is. Thank you, MGM and Laurie. And here is our info for online giving. Again, thank you for the wonderful haul that we had for Matthew's Crossing Food Bank. I did find out, MGM, that most needed are ramen, so packs of ramen, and also like beans, cans of beans or bags of beans would be wonderful. So protein sources. So I suggest cans of beans, bags of beans. Those would be great. So we're planning on bringing in again, and you can bring anything, but that is the most needed. Ramen beans, big bags of beans. You know, beans can go a very long way. If you make a big lentil soup, which we did, it can last for several days. So Hanukkah is continuing until the 15th, so we send blessings and peace to all around the world. Celebrating Hanukkah, yes. You are so very loved. You are so very appreciated. Your presence makes a difference. So be with us next week as we continue unwrapping Christmas. We may, I'm not going to say for certain, but we may be exploring the animals of Christmas. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to see metaphysically what happens next week and invite someone to be with you next week. So Christmas Eve candle lighting service is on, of course, Christmas Eve. Should we do it on a different day, just for fun? Be kind of fun, wouldn't it? But anyways, it's at 6 p.m. and that's going to be followed by the gift exchange, which is a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun at this event, and it's just something that you would like to receive. It can be something small, but something that you would love to get. And we invite you to bring yummy snacks to share. And this is kind of, we do the gift exchange where we give the gift and someone else can take it if they want it. Ron is still resentful about a gift that he got last year that got taken from him. He's working on it. It's the ego. He discovered that. It's the ego. So anyways, so yummy snacks, you can buy them at the store. You don't have to make them. Or you could make them. Let's make it festive. And a lot of people don't have any place to be. Or you want to bring your family here. Let's have a fun Christmas Eve event. Let us say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. All is well, and we are grateful. Yes, we are. And so, beloveds online, we hope that we see you in person very soon. Have a blessed, blessed week.